Your Forex requirements in real time. Buy and sell Forex at the touch of a button. Sign up for EasyFX today.
This is NTV.
Hello there, very good evening to you. Glad you could make time to join us as we have this discussion about COP27, the hits and the misses, what happened at COP27, and what Africa got out of the discussions of COP27, and what all that will mean for the continent going into COP28. And to have this discussion, we have a live studio audience at the University of Nairobi. We're going to have this discussion over the next 1.5 hours. And we also have a panel of experts who will help us unpack the decisions that came out of COP27. There was a package of at least 25 decisions, including the cover decision itself, what those decisions said and what you as an African got out of that discussion. Remember, you can join this discussion virtually. The hashtag is on your screen. The hashtag to use is on your screen. The Sham Decisions, hashtag the Sham Decisions, that is SHARM, the Sham Decisions. And before we get into these discussions, let's just watch this story, a summary of what happened at COP27.
It was the biggest ask at COP27. And as the days dragged on, it seemed impossible that the developing world would get its wish. But at 4:30 Sunday morning, more than 32 hours after the scheduled close of the climate summit, the president's gavel came down and the wish was granted.
My friends, we heard the calls and we responded. Today, here in Sharm el-Sheikh, we established the first ever dedicated fund for loss and damage, a fund that has been so long in the making.
Putting loss and damage on the agenda of the COP was one of Africa's priorities at the beginning of the summit, and although it made it into the agenda, discussions on it were not guaranteed. This broke the hearts of poor countries in attendance, but despite the heartbreak, they continue to push for compensation for the losses and damages they incur as a result of climate change.
We have struggled for 30 years on this path, and today in Sharm el-Sheikh, this journey has achieved its first positive milestone.
Millions around the globe can now sense a glimmer of hope that their suffering will finally be addressed swiftly and appropriately.
We are really pleased that the G77 plus China, the largest bloc of developing countries negotiating here, stood firm, stood united, and delivered this.
This is a very positive result from 1.3 billion Africans.
Yes.
Very, very exciting because for us, success in Egypt was going to be based on what we get from loss and damage.
Although COP27 took a decision to set up a fund for loss and damage, no discussions or decisions were made on where the money in the fund will come from or how the fund will be populated. And some delegates feel that even though the fund itself is a win, the language around it was weakened to exonerate wealthy nations from taking any kind of responsibility in causing the climate crisis in the first place.
It's primarily meant to actually help you to build an alternative livelihood system. Now, you can't do that without having the historic polluter, who of course climate change in the first place, actually assuming liability and compensating you for those harms.
The hard work begins next year to make sure that we know where the funding will come from, to make sure that we know where the structure of the fund will sit.
As Africa and the developing world celebrates this win, the European Union has expressed displeasure with the climate deal struck in Sharm el-Sheikh, saying it has fallen short of the aspirations of the Paris Agreement to contain global temperature rises.
The European Union came here to get strong language agreed, and we are disappointed we didn't achieve this. I strongly urge us all to roll up our sleeves and show to the world that the fight for ambition for a better future is not yet over.
The cover decision, known as the Sharm el-Sheikh Implementation Plan, also highlights that a global transformation to a low-carbon economy is expected to require investment of at least $6 trillion a year and urged multinational investment banks to support climate-compatible development. But there's a feeling that the COP27 decisions have done little to address the root cause of climate change, such as fossil fuels. Africa says it would have preferred a decision to phase out fossil fuels.
In this text, we have been given reassurances that there is no room for backsliding. It gives the key political signals that indicate the phase down of all fossil fuels is happening.
COP27 is believed to be the second most well-attended COP after the Glasgow meeting, which had nearly 40,000 delegates, and COP27 had about 33,000, representing 194 countries. And for the first time, the Holy See attended as a party state and not as an observer state. Now, all these 194 countries in attendance delivered a package of 25 decisions, including a mitigation work program, which is intended to scale up mitigation activities. The next COP, COP28, will be in Dubai next year. Zainab Wandati, NTV, Nairobi.
Great. So after watching that story, it focused mostly on loss and damage, which was one of the decisions that came out of the Sharm el-Sheikh, and I think it was one of the biggest achievements for the African group to be able to achieve that loss and damage financing facility. And to discuss further about what that decision particularly means for the continent of Africa, I'd like to now introduce my panel here. Right next to me is Dr. Mithika Mwenda, who is the Executive Director of the Pan-Africa Climate Justice Alliance. And next to him is Waithera Mwai, who is the Sustainability and Stakeholder Engagement Manager at Kenya Breweries Limited. And last but not least, we have Abebe Tadege, who is a climate change expert from IGAD, and Abebe has done quite a lot of work on the state of climate in East Africa. And right before we went to COP, actually, you showed us some figures, some disturbing figures on how temperature has risen in the IGAD region over the last 30 years. And also remember, we have a studio audience in this location, and we'll also be engaging with them at some point. So let's get started. The Sharm cover decisions. Mithika, what are your quick thoughts about those decisions at Sharm?
Thank you very much, Zainabu, and I'm happy we are with you here. We were there, so you were following, and I think we can contextualize what happened. So first and foremost, when we went to the Sharm el-Sheikh, which we were calling the African COP, we had some expectations and African aspirations, which were uniting as the civil society, the governments, and the other stakeholders. The government under the Africa Ministerial Conference on the Environment, the governments under the Africa Group of Negotiators who represent technical people like Abebe here, and also other stakeholders. And so we were united by four critical demands. One is we wanted Africa to be recognized as special needs and circumstances region. That means the issues which Abebe will talk about here, because they are scientists, they have analyzed in the Horn of Africa very disturbing information about what is happening in terms of temperature rise and what it means for the people. So that actually happens only in the Africa because of our positioning in the equator and the capacity to adapt to the impacts of climate change. That again means about the adaptation, mitigation, technology, and the money which we require. So that was very critical for us. Number two was the issue of loss and damage. That was very important for us because what you are seeing in the Horn of Africa is really losses and damages on livelihoods and livestock and the crops as a result of the changing climate. Somebody has caused that, and for us in the civil society, we have even more hand is reparations, compensation. So that is why we wanted the funding mechanism for that. Thirdly is the adaptation and the adaptation goal, and also the adaptation finance. It has been insufficient because all the frameworks on climate are mitigation-centric, and they more talk about mitigation, and they put more money on mitigation, but in Africa we need more adaptation. Finally, and more important, is just transition, and just transition, there is multiple definitions of just transition. So we need and really to see that, and if you are looking at all decisions, the cover decisions, and the overall decisions, we are looking at, did we really achieve anything out of that?
There were 25 decisions,
Yes.
including the cover decision itself.
Yes.
Very heavy documents to read.
Yes.
A lot of people are still in the process of reading, including myself. You have finished reading. I wonder where
And
you got the time
analyzed.
to do that.
Yes.
You finished reading all 25. So we'll come back to you and then you tell us what your thoughts are, having read all those documents. You work a lot with farmers, and you therefore get to see what loss and damage means for them on the ground. What are you seeing on the ground?
Firstly, I think I'd like to echo Daktari's comments, because the Loss and Damage Fund is something that has been in the works for 30 years. So for developing countries to finally see a situation where there's an unlocking of finance, which we know climate finance is a big and huge issue, especially for Africa, it was a fundamental thing to happen at
Surprise,
COP27.
actually. A lot of people had already given up on it, including Mithika himself.
Yes, because we've been waiting for it for 30 years. So the expectation was perhaps moving it to COP28. But for us on the ground, we have seen the real damage and the real loss in terms of our farmers. So for EABL, we work with about 60,000 farmers who supply us with sorghum and barley that we use to produce our products. And they have really been affected by drought. They have been affected by climate change. When it's hot, it is very, very hot, and it is too dry. When it rains, there are floods. And we are in a position where we have been experiencing a drought for about 18 months, going closer to 2 years. And for us to be able to say to them that as EABL, we are here for you, we are supporting you with farmer inputs, we are supporting you with a market so that we can buy your ready material, has not been enough. We have thought through climate smart agriculture, regenerative agriculture, and we have had to think through different practices, innovative practices, to see them through this period, right? So the conversation around loss and damage, it's very huge for them, because for farmers, especially the smallholder farmers, we have been able to give them seed varieties that are drought resistant. We have been able to train them on these regenerative agricultural practices that helps them sort of reverse the climate change adverse effects on their farms. And it's important for us to note that you have to work hand in hand with both the private sector and the public sector and the policymakers, because as a private sector, there's only so much we can do. And for us to see the scale that a fund has been created to support developing countries, the future only looks brighter.
Yeah. So Abebe, picking up from what Waithera has said, the farmers she works with who have seen the scale of loss and damage in the field. If you remember what President Ruto said when he addressed the World Leaders Summit at the COP27, he quantified loss and damage in Kenya's perspective in light of the current drought we're in. And he said just this year alone, Kenya has lost 2.5 million heads of livestock. And if you put that in financial terms, it comes to about 1.5 billion shillings. So that's what loss and damage means for the livestock farmers. So if you take that, put that into perspective, and the farmers that she also talked about, the sorghum farmers, how would she then translate that information to them so that they know that there's some hope in future where they can be able to be compensated for the losses that they suffer?
Yeah. First of all, let me thank NTV for inviting IGAD to come and be part of this forum. Like the previous speaker said, the most important outcome of COP27 is the loss and damage funding. Like you said, you just quantified the cost of the current prolonged drought in Kenya, for that matter, in Eastern Africa. It is the fifth consecutive drought. And in terms of economic damage, like you quantified, it's like 5 billion shillings. Is that? It could be even more.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So getting compensation for that loss and damage really will give a lot of comfort for people who are affected by that process. So that was really a very key outcome from COP27. Yes.
Now, coming back to you, Mithika, a fund has been approved, but where is the money?
Now, that's why I want to start by stating that just to give people like Waithera and others who are expecting money out of that fund, really we welcomed that decision with very cautious optimism. Because we have been in this space. This is not the first fund to have been established. We have the Adaptation Fund, we have the Green Climate Fund, and we have the Least Developed Countries Fund. More importantly, we also, when the CNDF, CDM, Clean Development Mechanism, a mechanism for the previous framework, Kyoto Protocol, was established, that is when I actually was joining this space. And you could think that that was the panacea for Africa's development, because there was a lot of excitement, like the one we are seeing with the loss and damage. But many years later, the first commitment period of Kyoto Protocol ended. The second ended without us having seen that light at the end of the tunnel. We are really cautioning our stakeholders that, and if you were in Sharm el-Sheikh, you could see the hesitancy with which even the industrialized countries, it was out of pressure that they accepted. So for us, maybe, and if you are familiar with these international processes, perhaps reluctantly they said, okay, you want a loss and damage fund, there you are, you have it. Then let's move the next level. So for us, the next thing, and actually this is very bad news for people like Waithera and those others. To me, it is bad news for you. We are very bad news for you, because actually we have really a longer, journey to go. By the time we establish that fund, we need really to fight. We need a big fight. As civil society, put pressure on those who have caused these losses and damages. The industrialized countries, in addition to cutting their emissions, is to ensure that they put money there. So there is, in fact, operationalization, and that putting together the committee where it is going to be hosted, which institution will host it. You know that Green Climate Fund
money will be accessed.
And how it is going to be assessed, that's the most critical issue. Even now, because we are not seeing that money. But one thing, of course, which has happened, which is positive, is that we have the fund. But having the fund is not having the money.
We still have to wait. So there's
not
also
wait, fight for it.
Fight
If
for
we
it.
wait, in fact, we are going to be very happy. So it's fighting for it until, and I think it will require the partnership, as it has happened. We have worked with African group of negotiators. We have worked with the KAUSK, under the chairmanship of the Kenya
Yes.
President Ruto. We have worked with the African Ministerial Conference on the Environment. You saw our torch, illuminating all those things. And I think it had a big impact because our pressure was really noticeable, and that is what we need. So my advice to stakeholders is that we should not go to sleep, because now a blanket will be rolled into you and you'll be told, now you have the fund, without realizing that there is one thing having the fund and
not
the other
having
thing
the money.
having the money.
Great. So when they're picking up from there, one thing having the fund and another thing having the money. There was, from the discussions out of the COP, there was a feeling that Africa may have to create its own solutions and have its own ways in which it can cover its losses and damages. The farmers you work with, do they have capacity to cover their own losses and damages?
The obvious answer is no, they do not have that capability. And maybe to just give Daktari some hope, I think we are cautiously optimistic. But the fact that, we got these, I think 200 countries to come on board and support the fund is a step forward after 30 years. And you're not in it alone. Civil society is not fighting for this alone. We have private sector, you have players like EABL, we have Diageo, who did our part. We went for COP27, we sat and voiced our challenges,
There was actually a partnership that was launched for private sector.
Yes, we are signatories to the UN Global Compact, and we did sign a climate statement among, I think, 56 other organizations in Africa, where we are committing to a variety of climate matters, and we are saying that yes, for us to scale this conversation, we cannot do it alone. And what I can say is, the issue around financing, around the issue of loss and damage and compensation, it's a very emotive issue. And even if you are following the procedure, that was one of the most heated conversation. Yes. Anything to do with financing, if it's financing for adaptation, if it's financing for loss and damage, the developing countries are always apprehensive. As it should be. No one is really always willing to give money. But as the biggest contributors, it is their responsibility to support the developing countries who had the least contribution to the problem.
Yeah. Actually, by the time those decisions were being made, most people had already left because Africa's heart had already sunk. They'd already lost hope that they were going to get anything good, and then there it is. So Abebe, picking up from there, a loss and damage fund, no money in it, no idea where this money is going to come from. There's a feeling from some NGOs, African NGOs, that this fund is actually the decision to approve a loss and damage fund is actually just to some kind of smokescreen, because the fund does nothing for Africa if the people who cause this climate problem, the developed world, are exonerated from responsibility. That Africa would have wanted to see them take responsibility, like words in the text, for them to take responsibility so that they can then feel obligated to create this fund. Do you think we can have this fund without them taking responsibility?
Well, that fund is yet to be materialized. There is a process. There is already a provisional committee which will work on the procedures, how much money, from what sources, who should contribute to that funding. That has to be worked out. In fact, in next COP28, they should be able to bring that study and assessment on the table for discussion and decision. So the hope is that the first thing is to get the agreement of the polluters to establish that funding. And then the next step is the procedure, the approach, how much it will be, the criteria, and all. Like we have criteria to access funding from the Green Climate Fund. Yes. There will be criteria also to access funding from the loss and the damage.
And Kenya is one of the countries that has benefited greatly from the Green Climate Fund, even though there's a feeling that the rules in place for you to access that money are so ridiculous that from the time you apply to the time you get it, it's about 3 years.
Yeah, yeah. The accessing the fund, it takes a long process, and that issue has been raised in the COP27 as well.
It did come
so let me also remind the audience that loss and damage is just one fund that's going to be established, but there are other funds for adaptation, for mitigation. For example, the Green Climate Fund is about 100 billion per year contribution. We should be able to access from that fund.
Yes.
There's also the mitigation aspect, because we have committed, countries have committed to mitigate. That means they have targets through their nationally determined contributions. They have also national adaptation plans, NAPs. All those require funding from the Green Climate Fund and also other funds that are going to be coming in the long term. And those funds are not going to be simple funds. They are going to be trillions of dollars funds. So we should strategize to access. We should organize ourselves to access those fundings.
But do you think really there's hope, considering there's $100 billion that the West promised but has never really delivered? Do you think there's hope for this loss and damage fund to actually be delivered?
Yeah, I'm very hopeful. and by the way, at the moment, that 100 billion is like 80-something billion per year. And by 2023, they are going to reach 100 billion. But that's the promise. That's the target. And when we go beyond that, there's even going to be more funding. So if we have, if we have, let me finish. If we take climate change as a key problem for the world, all developed countries have to act together in a frankly collaborative way to address it. We cannot escape this problem. It's going to stay with us. Yes.
I think, let me say this. I want to now contextualize it, this issue of money. Waithera works with smallholder farm. By the way, I'm also a member of that effort. We support it together. So we want to trickle down solutions and actions at very local level, decentralized, because the discourse has been at very higher level.
Yes,
but coming to this, I want just to Abebe to understand. She works with smallholder farmers, doing sorghum and selling it so that they get money. And there is a lot of talk about big money, $100 billion US flying there every year. I want Waithera just to be very practical, to tell us how much money has she, and that's what we have been asking, and in our campaign on locally led climate action. We want really to shift that, really things not to be hanging out there, big money, big hanging, and going to support these farmers. How is that? Where are that farmers seeing that money? And that is actually the campaign which we have. But allow me to come now back to the issue.
We need to take a break, so very quickly, yes.
Just the issue of this, the loss and damage victory. That's a very small thing, small victory in a bigger problem of climate change. And
it's a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, a very small drop, because even if we turn the whole of Africa green, because these guys want to shift the burden of action on climate to smallholder farmers like this, while living their profligate lifestyles there, and now saying, we can, you can do it, to plant trees for us. We can give you money for loss and damage, whereas we are not reducing our emissions. So I think the
there was a carbon markets program also launched at COP27.
That's what the problem which we have. All those, I wish we could have a really bigger discussion, because those are very for solutions, or whether carbon markets or what. We know the solution, where it will come from. It is there. Reduce emissions, cut them to acceptable levels, and that's what science says, and then address climate justice. The imperative of climate justice is now for supporting loss and damage, adaptation, and those others. If we do that, and we have everything in written, the only problem is that someone somewhere doesn't want to work and want this poor farmer to just carry the abandon.
Yes, Mithika, unfortunately, I have to cut you off there. We have to take a very quick break, but he did ask you a question that I'll come back to you to respond to. We have to take a quick break, but this conversation continues right after the break.
Napatana na marafiki zangu niliosoma nao. Sasa nikapendeza na nguo ndio na madoa na mabaki.
Hata baada ya kuisuuza nguo hii mara nyingi na bado ina mabaki, nimepata suluhisho. Shukran kwa New Ariel Liquid Hand Wash.
Tofauti na poda, Ariel Liquid huyuka papo hapo na kupa mng'aro safi bila kuacha madoa au mabaki.
Unapendeza sana. Material gani hii? Ni New Ariel Liquid.
Jaribu New Ariel Liquid Hand Wash, mng'aro kamili bila mabaki.
It hasn't been easy to find the right diaper to protect Selasie's delicate skin. After trying many diapers, Pampers proved to be the best for my baby. I tested it myself. I placed Pampers and an ordinary diaper under clear bowls with a hole in the middle. I poured 1 cup of water in each diaper. I saw that Pampers absorbed 2 times faster. So almost no wetness can be felt on my baby's skin. I only trust Pampers for my baby. Go try it yourself.
Sio kupenda kwangu, ni vile economy iko.
Usijali. Wacha turekebishe.
Bei ya jana, si bei ya leo. Tunabambika na Jumia Black Friday. Inua bidhaa yako leo. Uletewe haraka upesio. Na kuna kitu tu kwa kila mtu. Kuna ofa moto moto. Ocha kipo tu.
Uchumi ni hard, lakini Jumia tunakusort.
We asked Kenyan women to tell us what they look for in a lotion.
Leo tunaweka kwenye jaribio body lotion ya bei ghali na ya bei nafuu. Why pay more? Nunua Nice and Lovely body lotion. Ni bora zaidi kwa bei nafuu. Inai-transform dry skin kuwa deeply nourished na kui-smoothen.
It's just nicer and lovelier. Chagua Kenya's #1 body lotion.
Are you between the ages of 10 to 17 years?
Do you always wish to pay for games, buy snacks, or pay for a movie with M-Pesa when you go out? Worry not, Safaricom M-Pesa has a product for you.
Join us this Saturday at the Two Rivers Mall
for the best of entertainment with great artists, amazing dancers, and good music.
Teen Republic in association with Safaricom M-Pesa Go.
We know your flavor, and that's how you inspire us to always deliver the best quality meals made fresh with locally sourced ingredients. Galitos, bold African flavor.
Get the Galitos Hot Box and a 500 ml Coke soda at just 699 Kenya shillings.
Welcome back. So before we went to the break, we were talking about loss and damage. There's a question where you were asked, have you ever seen any financing on the ground, the farmers you work with, from the GCF or whichever fund?
Yes, some farmers do receive the funding, but it's not sufficient. That is why private sector has a very big role to play in this whole conversation. And it's good to see passion like my friend here, Daktari, has, because civil society, government especially, private sector, if we all hold our hands together, we'll be able to support one another and maybe take some good steps in the right direction around this conversation of loss and damage. Yeah.
Great. So now I'd like to shift gears slightly and look at mitigation. Mitigation was also one of the things that was on the agenda for Kenya's country position as well as Africa's position. And what came out of the COP27 is that there was a mitigation work program that was launched in Sharm el-Sheikh to scale up mitigation ambition. And the work program was supposed to start work immediately. And planting trees, Kenya is going very big with planting trees. Planting trees is supposed to be one of the things that you do when it comes to mitigation. But scientists like Abebe there say even if we were to implement all of our action plans as the world, we are still on track to hitting 2.7 degree temperature rise. So if planting trees is not enough, Abebe, why are we bothering?
No, planting trees is good. It's good. It's a win-win situation for Kenya, for the climate, for the world. But that is not enough. We need to be more ambitious. Not only Kenya, every nation should be more ambitious to be more sustainable, more clean, practice more clean energy, and also to maintain or to sustain land use, like stopping deforestation. So what the IPCC is warning is if we have to keep the 1.5 degrees centigrade Paris Agreement, all nations have to act. In fact, the lead should be by those who are big polluters. But that requires cutting of emissions by every nation, and it should be immediate. Before 2030, that cut has to be done if we have to maintain 1.5 degrees centigrade. If we are not doing that, that means the loss and the damage would be much
continue.
worse. So it's
a give and take.
taken,
So still on that point, Abebe,
yes.
there's a feeling from civil society groups like Midika here that COP27 is where the 1.5 Paris ambition went to die.
Yes.
Because those are your words exactly, Midika.
Yes.
Is where 1.5 the ambition went to die. Because at COP26 there was an effort to force a phase out, a complete phase out of fossil fuels.
Yes.
And then last minute it was changed to do a phase down.
Yeah.
And so it was hoped that COP27 would pick up that and have those words amended in the final discussion so that by the time you're leaving COP27, there's a complete phase out of fossil fuels.
Mm-hmm.
But that did not happen. So how can we say we can still achieve the 1.5?
No, but if you read the cover decision, the promise of Glasgow Climate Compact is also included, which means that 1.5 degree target is still around. So countries, even world leaders came, more than 100 world leaders came, and they promised to keep the momentum, to maintain that 1.5 target. So with those provisions, and with the warning of the IPCC, even the compact, the Sharm el-Sheikh implementation plan, the cover decision, mentions that 1.5 degrees centigrade in the text, in the science recognition. So that still has to be pushed, and I'm sure when it comes to next year, that also again will be an issue to be discussed.
Yes,
If I can just chip in, I think I'm also a bit saddened about that conversation around mitigation because I personally was expecting some more. And maybe some pushback on you is that this conversation of the program, the mitigation program that was discussed in Glasgow, we were expecting much more this year. And when you see the largest pollutants are very quiet on conversations around fossil fuels.
Yes.
And
in fact, there were 600 fossil fuel lobbyists, 25% more than those who showed up in Glasgow.
Yeah, and when you hear countries who, last year it was all about coal, and now they come and they're saying, okay, so we talked about coal now, can we talk about oil?
Yes.
And you hear there's no real
and now they're saying
commitment.
something called natural gas.
Yes, and you hear even other conversations of gas deals that were being done on the sidelines of the same COP27.
Yes.
So it's very concerning, but maybe just to mention, as private sector, we also do have a role to play. So for example, at EABL, we are very keen on accelerating to a low carbon world. So we look at things to do with renewable energy. I can mention about our biomass steam plants that we have. We have 2 biomass steam plants in Kenya. We have one in Kisumu and we have one in Nairobi. We have another one in Uganda, and there are plans to open another biomass steam plant in Tanzania.
So how much of your energy right now is renewable?
Well, unlocking the biomass fuel plant will help us achieve 95% reduction of our carbon emissions, which is about 42,000 metric tons. So if leading private sectors, players such as ourselves, again, can commit to such things and show the world that, yes, it is possible. We are a developing country. We are the hardest hit. But we cannot sit back and say we are not going to do anything because this is our home. This is where we live. So we are also doing our bit, transitioning to a low-carbon world and working along with our partners to ensure that we reduce our carbon emissions.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just use your microphone for a moment. I think mine has died as they figure out what's wrong. Abebe is very hopeful about mitigation and the COP process, but you are not. And in fact, looking at the summary that Pakja did about what happened at COP27, your summary says COP27 did not meet the expectations of Africa. There was weak language and lowering of the bar on ambition, especially energy and just transition, and there was a missed opportunity to address the unique African concerns. So how then is it that you're lacking the optimism that Abebe has, or is Abebe who's not in reality?
In fact, listening to Abebe, I agree with him. It depends on the semantics. One of the things which we have to look at in this all geopolitics of climate change is the fact that it shapes, our economies in a major way. And so, when you find countries judiciously protecting their national interest, because the country which relies on oil, for instance, will defend, because you are saying, let us face down coal, let us face down oil, whereas they need really that oil for growth. These are politicians, and they come there, they have the mandate to develop. And so that is actually the biggest problem which we have in this now climate development mix. And so we've been calling for fair shares for countries. What is Kenya doing based on its contributions to the global, emission burden, And what is the role, the United States, which is the largest emission contributor, doing? What is the current one, the China doing? So we need all, whether developing countries and what have you, but the fact is, in Sharm el-Sheikh, there was an effort really to bury the 1.5. That is actually true. And the fact is, in some quarters, there were the loss and damage campaign really overshadow the bigger picture of really addressing climate change, and we do the small fights of getting small money, whereas things are really going bad at the highest level. So those are the politics. So in our view, really, the Sharm el-Sheikh did not very do good, because the industrialized countries really want to escape this burden. Because one, it means, let me finish. What one, it means is that, number one, is that we need drastic urgent emission reduction as is required, because calculations are there. The fair shares, I can share with you what America used to do, what Europe need to do. Just look. We are being told, and in the north, and these are the politics, we end up difference with the African Union and the African Development Bank, because the north is telling us you have to abandon your oil and gas and development. Our governments are saying, go and tell Museveni and tell President Ruto, abandon exploration of oil in Turkana or Alberta in region in Uganda, because you need really to develop on clean path. And there's, when there is a small problem in Ukraine, Germany just opens up their coal mines and those. So is that in double standard? These are some of the things which we are doing. So are they really genuine in really thinking about what they are telling us, or they just want you Africans go and plant trees? Yes, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia led the government in planting more than 1 billion trees. Yes. But has that really solved the problem? So the problem, the only problem, what we are going to do, how to save the climate problem is not planting trees. That's a small effort. Is not really pushing the burden to this small older farmer. It is for them, if America wakes up and says, we are going to cut our emissions to the level which is demanded by science, we will solve the climate problem.
Yes.
And then provide the money for the problem which they have caused, not so that these people now can adapt. We will solve the climate problem. And those are imperatives of what we are calling climate justice.
Let me just play the devil advocate here for a moment. So when you talk about phasing out versus phase out of fossil fuels and mitigation, on the sidelines of the COP, there was also a conversation that suggested that maybe Africa needs to do exactly what the West is doing, so that you force them to come to the table and so that you can then talk as equals. So that, because the President Ruto said Kenya will not exploit its hydrocarbons, yes, that all of it will be left in the ground. And even CS Chirchir reiterated the same point and said we will not exploit any of our hydrocarbons to stay on the ground, in the ground. Yeah. But now, what if Africa were to actually exploit all of its hydrocarbon potential and emit as much as the West is emitting, so that you force them now to sit down at the table as equals?
Yeah, we say we are going to keep our oil on the ground and the coal on the oil, but you compensate us on the lost opportunities, okay? So yes, we accept, yes, it's a problem, because we don't want to develop on the same pathways which polluted and brought us to this problem. So what we need, because you are the cause of the problem, we are not going to carry your burden. So what yes, we have, and that is in the convention. But we keep that. And that's why some countries are saying, to hell, will let us perish alone. We are not the only ones who are perishing. We are going to exploit our oil until you listen. And Germany, you see, I'm just mentioning the issue of the Ukraine war. When because Germany said we are going to close all our coal mines. And as in Africa, 600 million people have no energy, have no access to energy. But just as more trigger that now they have been denied energy by Ukraine war, now they have gone to their mines. How is this not doublespeak for these people?
Zainab, I think the issue, it's a catch-22 indeed, but I don't think it's fair for us to be part of the problem and to say because we didn't contribute, let us continue and industrialize and grow. It is a catch-22 because we don't want to be a world leader. We do want to industrialize, but like what Daktari is saying, we should be compensated, but at the same time, come up with our own solutions for clean energy. Just as we are doing at EABL, we cannot fold our hands behind and say, okay, let us be part of the problem, let us go back to fossil fuels. I don't think that is an acceptable position to be.
May I come in also?
I think before that, just 1 minute, I think the politics of climate, I'm not denying the fact that we have to do something, but here we are not saying we are complacent to the problem. But for Waithera, I think she needs some, she comes from the background, what she's doing something, and the background of the private sector. We have the people here, we have been trying to do, and I can tell you, many people are doing what we are doing. Our governments are doing even more than that. Planting trees, doing everything, not even exploring. But now here is a person. What you are doing is a small. Remember, Africa actually accounts for only 3% of global emissions. Yes. And even if you do, I was saying, we plant the whole of Africa green trees. We are not, without action being down there. So I agree with you. The problem is, there are people who are doing it double standard. They want now them. We want you to do whatever you can do, grow on what your umbrellas on renewables, but then they are going to continue doing what they are doing. That is the challenge.
Yes, my say is, it's technology which created the climate change problem. And it will be technology which will fix it. Where is technology moving now? We have renewable energy. We have hydrogen energy coming in. We have other, even electric vehicles. You will soon see them flooding in the streets of Nairobi.
But even speaking about technology,
so let me finish.
Some of the lobbyists at the COP were arguing that there's technology that can clean that fuel. That it's fossil fuel, yes, but there's technology that can clean it.
Yeah, it can be replaced, but what we need is, we need to request the technology, we need to leapfrog technologically forward, and then we also need to require the finance that's required to implement the technology. We cannot forever continue with unsustainable models.
There was even a polluter who said the problem is emissions, not oil.
And so they're arguing they have technology that can actually take that, and why they want Africa to do the carbon market program. So we need to take another quick break so that we can tell you what to expect in the news bulletin at the top of the hour. But this conversation does not end here. Remember, you can still engage us online, and we also have a studio audience and a very active panel here. We'll be right back after this break.
Enjoy early Christmas offers. Join us on our open day on 26th November 2022. Call us on 0790-771677 or SMS LAND to 21595 for more info.
Secure your future plus the future of your loved ones by buying a property at the Great Oasis Gardens in Nanyuki or any other Optivens value-added properties today. Pata ploti chap chap na Optiven and enjoy a peace of mind, classy living, and lots of happiness. Start the journey now with as low as 149,000 Kenya shillings and get 3,000 shillings cash back. Call us today on 0790 300 300. So what are you waiting for? Pata ploti chap chap na Optiven.
199, 200. Here it is. The treasure is down there. Well, start digging. Quicker. Dig quicker. Here, drink a Red Bull. That's better. Can you see it? How much is there? Hello? Have you found the treasure? Hello? Hello?
Red Bull gives you wings.
They say it's in your nature. It's a woman thing. On the outside, it's a light that shines bright. Inside, it's a fire that burns with fight. It's having a dream and pursuing it, making a plan and working it. It's starting a business and owning it, big or small, local or global. We see you, your dream, your reason for being. This is at the core of what we do, raise women and build them for better. As a woman in business, let KCB fire up your female-led and made enterprise, KCB Flame. To find out more, WhatsApp 0711 087 087 or call 0711 087 000 and visit us at any KCB branch countrywide.
My skin is my identity, my strength. It's unique and deserves care made specially for me. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Advanced Care with 5 oils and 5 vitamins. 48-hour nourishment. Helps reduce appearance of stretch marks in just 2 weeks. New Nivea Radiant and Beauty Advanced Care for your shade of beautiful.
Offers a Hisense. FIFA World Cup 2022 Hisense promotions ongoing now at supermarkets countrywide. Kipia ujikamatia ofa ya Hisense sasa hivi.
Tarehe 26 na tarehe 27 Kasarani Stadium. Fanya njia zote tukutane Kasarani.
This is NTV.
Tonight,
to promote your honor.
I have a choice, but my choice and participation of this committee.
What about your next just leave?
That's okay, honorable. We have a kangaroo committee here. That wants to give honorable. We cannot participate in the kangaroo proceedings. We cannot with the petition. We cannot proceed.
Honorable Juneta, his team are leaving.
Drama as Azimio members of parliament walk out of hearing to oust 4 embattled IEBC commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Also tonight,
as the country faces monumental challenges, the leadership is consumed with exacting revenge and laying ground for stealing of elections in 2027.
Azimio party leader Raila Odinga piles pressure on the Ruto administration with accusations of purging the electoral body. Plus,
the majority of the people who have been employed here or brought by a politician or the other. That created a culture of people feeling entitled to their positions because they have political leverage.
NHIF board chairman Louis Nguyai kicks up storm amidst claims of fraud and misuse of funds at the National Health Insurer. And
Lamu inaitwa Lamu tamu. Vipi utaiona tamu ikiwa hujakuja kuiona?
Hizi ni sherehe ambazo kwamba zinafanya uchumi wetu, kwa sababu sahihi Lamu as a heritage site tunategemea wageni kuja kututembelea. Sasa wageni wakija kutembelea, mahoteli, tourism industry ndo inainuka.
The annual Lamu Cultural Festival kicks off on the island. NTV is on the road tonight.
We asked Kenyan women to tell us what they look for in a lotion.
Leo tunaweka kwenye jaribio body lotion ya bei ghali na ya bei nafuu. Why pay more? Nunua Nice and Lovely body lotion. Ni bora zaidi kwa bei nafuu. Inai-transform dry skin kuwa deeply nourished na kui-smoothen.
It's just nicer and lovelier. Chagua Kenya's #1 body lotion.
Sio kupenda kwangu, ni vile economy iko.
Usijali. Wacha turekebishe.
Bei ya jana, si bei ya leo. Tunabambika na Jumia Black Friday. Nunua bidhaa yako leo, uletewe haraka upesio, na kuna kitu tu kwa kila mtu. Kuna ofa moto moto, ocha kipo tu,
uchumi ni hard, lakini Jumia tunakusort.
What are you playing at, you idiot? You're a new international striker! 5-0 down, it's only halftime!
No, coach, it's not me. Something's missing.
Yes, I know that. There's no talent, commitment, skill!
No, that's wrong. It's the formation. We need more on the outside. Where's number 7 or number 11? We're lacking in the flanks.
Speak English!
Coach, we need wingers.
Before the second half, we all drink a Red Bull.
Why's that?
Red Bull gives you wings!
They have a monumental journey ahead of them, through wind and rain, from one continent to the next, although some have other ideas. Well, if you're going to fly, you may as well fly better.
Hey, Dad! Are we there yet?
Stubborn dark marks? Stop. Discover the power of vitamin C with the new Garnier Even Matte Booster Serum, a highly concentrated serum that deeply penetrates, clinically proven to reduce dark marks by 43%. Get even glowing skin from day 6. New Garnier Even Matte Vitamin C Booster Serum by Garnier. Naturally.
Are you between the ages of 10 to 17 years?
Do you always wish to pay for games, buy snacks, or pay for a movie with M-Pesa when you go out? Worry not, Safaricom M-Pesa has a product for you.
Join us this Saturday at the Two Rivers Mall
for the best of entertainment with great artists, amazing dancers, and good music.
Teen Republic in association with Safaricom M-Pesa Go.
We know your flavor, and that's how you inspire us to always deliver the best quality meals made fresh with locally sourced ingredients. Galitos, bold African flavor.
Get the Galitos Hot Box and a 500 ml Coke soda at just 699 Kenya shillings.
Welcome back. Remember I mentioned we have a live studio audience, and we do have a live studio audience here, and they have a couple of questions for you, the panelists. And we have somebody who already has a microphone. Please stand up. Say your name and who you're addressing your question to.
My name's Al John Waweru Gakunga.
Move your microphone closer to your mouth.
John Waweru Gakunga, founder and managing director, managing trustee of Interwaste Research and Development East Africa Trust.
Okay. Just hold your microphone to your mouth like that.
I am asking my friend, Mr. Mathika. Thank you for meeting you face to face. I have been to your office, I didn't see. Thank you for
Please get your question.
Nation Group for inviting me to this forum. Thank you. Now, I have been concerned about Dandora dam site. Many years. I was there when it started, feeling the quarry pit. Now it is a mountain. You have brought us good words, loss and damage. Mr. Madika, do you encounter how many people have died because of the Dandora dam site?
Okay.
Considering other things.
Okay. I need you to conclude very quickly.
I'm asking her.
Waithera, yes.
Waithera, in Africa, trees are planted by farmers. We need to encourage farmers to plant trees, to grow trees, not plant trees, grow trees. In South America, one tree costs more dollars than Africa. Why is this?
Okay.
About IGAD. IGAD, thank you for the work you have been doing. I remember the belt in the desert. Now, how do you consider the people who have technology, say, desert control from Norway?
Okay.
They are my friends.
Thank you.
And they need to have that technology to green areas in our north frontier. That's all what I want.
Thank you, sir. Hand the microphone.
Very much.
There's a lady behind you. Please stand up, say your name and who you address your question to.
My good name is Teresia Karimi, Debate President, University of Nairobi. My question is to all the panelists, Dr. Mithika, Waithera, and Abebe. One thing is on the implementation part. What can we do to mitigate climate change effects in Africa with the resources that we already have? And another question is to Dr. Mithika. Is there funding opportunities for students with research and community-based projects on climate change? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a gentleman there with the microphone.
My name is Maurice Otieno.
Please be loud, I can't hear you.
My name is Maurice Otieno, a student at the University of Nairobi. I have a question to the panelist. The current issues in the country concerning the GMOs, how can we use the technology to address the issue of food insecurity in the country, rather than bringing the GMOs in the country, which may affect our farmers?
Okay, thank you. We'll take those ones first and address them before we do another round. So we can start with you, Mithika.
Yeah. So I'll pick my questions the way we have started. The Dandora case is either our domestic irresponsibility. I don't think that is actually climate related. The way we are discussing it, it is the emissions which come there actually out of there is actually methane. There are efforts which have been made really even to tap gas out of it, but because of cartels which revolve around that, you will not step there. So what I would urge the governor and the government, there is potential. We can turn that into an opportunity, but it requires a very high level intervention. It's not as more people like us. Regarding the issue of the carbon, it was to Waithera, but you have raised, I think, I will take that. The issue you have raised about the North America trees and those, I think that is about the issue of the carbon emissions and the compensation and the ton of carbon, which has been very controversial. In some areas, we are told it is bought as $100 US dollars per ton of carbon. But when you go to us, it is $35 US dollars. And we have been talking and really discussing, and that's why some people even refer that when Senap talks about there was a lot of agreements of carbon trade, it has never worked because there is a lot of speculation, and those are, we are saying some of them are for solutions because they will not come even to help you, and that is actually our position. I want to be told where it worked. In terms of the implementation in Africa, my colleague there, I think yes, there are areas where their implementation is in Africa is concerned, but it is tied to global framework. UNFCCC and the African countries, all of them have got very robust policies, but the only problem is that go to the Ministry of Environment of Kenya. You will see very good policies. You will see good strategies, but they only stay there as in the and warming the shelves of the ministries. It's not only Kenya, but Africa, because we do very good in policies, but implementation is zero. We want to urge our governments really to focus on implementation, but of course, they require money. The Kenyan NDCs requires 62 billion US dollars, 6.2 trillion Kenya shillings. How much is that? Do we have that money? We say we can only raise 13%. I'm just contextualizing, but that is the problem. Then the young man on the students, the young lady on students, I think we have an opportunity as Paja. We have what we are calling Nairobi Summer School on Climate Justice, which has really helped many young people to understand this. We are going to have cohort 3 in June this year, and I encourage the young people in Kenya to apply because it builds your capacity, and we will even that one, in this one, we are going to have components where we are going to be supporting those who excel very well in some community projects. We fund them, and we have money for that to help them. Thank you.
Yes, Federa.
I'll just add on what Daktari has said, as he has answered all the questions. I think to answer your question, first of all, on the question around Dandora, it is our individual actions that have led to that crisis. So issues around waste management, recycling will help us get there. And as private sector, we are not waiting on the government to come up with policies. Many a times we are the ones who lead, and then the policies come after us. Yes. So it is our actions. For us as EABL, we are very big on reuse and recycling. All our beer bottles are recyclable. They are made of almost 70% recyclable material. So the waste contribution that we have is very negligible as a business. And on the issue of trees, yes, it is important for us to plant trees. We cannot say that we are not going to plant trees. As EABL, we partner with CBOs, we partner with Kenya Forest Services, and to date, we have planted 1.5 million trees in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And it does have an impact on the carbon emissions. So we do work with our farmer groups, and they do plant trees, and we do help them do the carbon emissions and quantify that, yes, you in this area, if you plant 15 trees, you'll be able to have a successful rate. On the question about implementers, EABL is an implementer. We are here. We are doing so much. Like I had mentioned around renewable energy, the conversation around biomass, the conversation about our energy mix. Being on the grid, we're already at 95%, but we also have our own initiatives that have led us to 96% of renewable energy. When you look at water, we are very huge consumers of water, so we play our role to ensure that we put back much more water than we use. First, we plant the trees on the water catchment areas. We use less water in production of one beer bottle, and our target is to have that reduced by 40% by 2025. So implementation is us, and the partners, the private sector has such a huge role to play. On the question, I think it was on youth, the role youth have to play. There was a huge conversation in COP about youth. And
for the first time, there was a youth pavilion.
There was a youth pavilion, and we saw young people coming up with great innovations and great conversations around this space. I think the question about youth also plays around the question around just transition. Because the youth, the marginalized, the women are the hardest hit. They are the ones who struggle a lot with this conversation. At EABL, we have a target around inclusion and diversity. We are very clear that we want to get the youth onboarded. We have programs that we come to you. We have the Diajoba Academy where we come to you and we say, come and we will upskill you. We have a Learning for Life program where we come and we teach you a lot of business skills that can help you thrive. We have young people in our farming value chain. So there is a lot of room within the private sector for you to play your role and for you to join us at EABL to help us meet some of these targets.
Yes, finally.
Yeah, thank you. I think John raised about the issue of desertification, which was directed especially to IGAD. Yeah, desertification is a problem. In fact, we have the Desertification Convention, which is handling desertification. But because of climate change, desertification is even becoming more aggressive. So there's initiatives, the Green Great Wall initiative is there, which extends from West Africa across the Horn of Africa, and then maybe touching even Kenya. So African Union is involved, the Desertification Convention people are also involved, the IGAD also is involved, work is going on, but because of this funding from maybe loss and damage and other funding, the climate change aspect also can come in there. So there's a hope that more resource would be availed in constructing the great green wall in the future. My sister, you mentioned about implementation, mitigation technologies. When you say in climate change, when you say mitigation, that is reducing your greenhouse gas emission. In other words, addressing the root problem of man-made climate change. If that's what you wanted, there are technologies, including renewable technologies, wind, solar. We have hydrogen technology. We have electric vehicle technologies. There are a number of technologies coming to address or reduce greenhouse gas emissions. On GMO, GMO is a bit controversial. Yes. And we need to really do more assessment and studies before adopting that. But rather than going to the GMO, there are other options locally. For example, using more irrigation, and also how about inter-African trade? There are areas who produce more food and it's not being traded between African nations. So those aspects needs to be addressed before maybe bringing GMOs.
Thank you. Thank you. We've come to the end, so we need to take just a minute each to talk about next steps and where do we go from here. Very quickly, Medika, in a minute.
Thank you very much. In terms of, I agree that everyone has responsibility to address climate change. So we need to build alliances for action. We need to live in interdependence with nature. The small thing my friend there is talking about is our responsibility. So whatever environment you have, you need, even before talking at international level, we think global, act local. Moving forward in terms of what we need to do now, moving to COP28, we need really, we have made, of course, progress, but we are not going to celebrate that until we see that action being done. Yes. So we are going to reach out to everybody, and we are going to continue with our collaborations so that we deliver the best for the African continent and our people.
Thank you. Waithera, in a minute, next steps.
I think sustainability is not, it's not a very big thing for you out there. It is an individual responsibility. And once that is accepted, there are things that you can do as an individual, starting from your home. Simple things on energy and water consumption that you can start in your home. And I think the conversation around climate change is, private sector has a big role to play. we have had the conversations around partnerships, as Daktari has said, but private sector, companies like ABL, we have raised up our hand, and there are things that we are doing, as I've mentioned, that can really unlock some of these challenges. But we need the policies. We need the governments across the globe to think the same way and to move this from conversation to action. And that is something that we are doing. Like us, our sustainability strategy, it was set out, it is a plan, but we implement it and we track it and we have targets against it. And that is what helps us see the results that we have today.
Thank you. Bebe, final words?
Yeah, climate change is going to stay with us. And it's a problem, we have to address it. We need to get organized, we need to be aware about the issue, and everybody has to contribute. From individual, family, county, national, international, and what have you. So it's a challenge, but at the same time, it's also an opportunity. So let us get organized and let us implement those commitments. Implementation is critical.
Great. Thank you very much. That's a very good point to end this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us in this conversation as we talked about what happened at COP27 and what next for Africa. Thank you very much, Dr. Mithika, for making time. Thank you, Waithera. Thank you, Abebe. And thank you, the audience, for being a part of this conversation. Apologies, I could not apologies, I could not take all of your questions, but this conversation, of course, you can get their contacts and ask them your questions. And also on social media, we continue. My name is Zena Bwandati, and thank you very much again for joining us. But before we leave, the news will be coming on, of course, at 9 o'clock. But before we leave, I'd like to leave you with a short video where Waithera has talked a lot about the kind of work that they are doing to help the farmers adapt to climate change, to help the farmers mitigate the impacts of climate change. And this video shows you exactly how they're doing that. Have a good night.
The Society 2030 Spirit of Progress is our 10-year action plan to create a more inclusive and sustainable world. In the East Africa region, we have been enhancing our commitment towards this goal through promoting a positive role for alcohol, championing inclusion and diversity, preserving our natural resources on which our long-term success depends, and making a positive contribution to the communities where we live, work, source, and sell across the region. Production of our brands begin from sourcing of raw materials. Thus, we have a strong commitment to empowering our farmers and supporting inclusion and diversity across our value chain. We are also dedicated to continue equipping and sharing knowledge of the importance of recycling across the value chain, even as we explore partnerships to enable us get into full recycling of waste produced. What is the most important ingredient in our products? It is also a precious shared resource that is under increasing pressure across the globe, hence the need to preserve and learn to utilize the resource sustainably and champion water stewardship to protect this important resource. We have pledged to substantially increase our share of renewable energy use in the global energy mix, to use clean and affordable energy sources and offset our carbon footprint. Our recent investment in biomass and solar energy across our plants in East Africa is a demonstration of the strength of our commitment to pioneer grain-to-glass sustainability. From 2018 to 2020, we have achieved a 25% decrease in our direct and indirect emissions. While we appreciate the progress we have made so far, we are looking forward to implement the plans we have to being a more diverse, inclusive, and sustainable-centric business of the future to continue making an impact on our business, partners, suppliers, teams, and the communities around us.
tarehe 26 na tarehe 27 Kasarani Stadium. Fanya njia zote tukutane Kasarani. Kasarani tu.
Welcome to Georgia Luxury Apartments in Shanzu near Nyali Shopping Center along Mombasa Malindi Highway. 5 minutes walk to the beach. 3-bedroomed, modern, spacious, luxurious with an SQ. There is ample parking, a rooftop swimming pool, CCTV, backup generator, a speed lift. There is also a spacious 5-bedroom penthouse with an exclusive gym. Visit our website or call +254 757 020033.
Young Scientist Kenya brings you the 5th National Science and Technology Exhibition on 29th to 30th November 2022 at the Sarit Expo Center in Westlands with the theme Using STEM to Redefine Our Future. Since 2018, YSK has reached over 200,000 students from all 47 counties through STEM mentorship and outreach program. Additionally, YSK's goal for inclusion and diversity through the Leave No Learner Behind program provides students with special needs, marginalized girls, and those in arid and semi-arid lands access to STEM learning equipment. To attend the exhibition, visit www.ysk.co.ke/2022 exhibition. Young Scientists Kenya, inspiring, informing, and empowering youth towards STEM.
50 years ago, IFC invested $2 million in KCB Bank to help small businesses in Kenya grow and thrive. Half a century later, IFC's portfolio in Kenya stands at $1 billion with investments and advisory services in manufacturing, agribusiness, financial services, and many other sectors. IFC is helping Kenya strengthen its business environment, attract investment, and weather economic crises like the COVID-19 pandemic. IFC, creating markets and opportunities in Kenya and around the world. Find out more at www.ifc.org.
Are you ready? Let's go. You're going out tonight.
In the last 2 years, Centum Real Estate has completed and handed over 500 plus homes within the popular and rapidly expanding prime neighborhood of Ipingo, supported by world-class amenities and infrastructure. Palm Ridge Apartments, comprising of 1, 2 and 3 bedrooms, are among the move-in ready homes available for rent from 20,000 Kenya shillings. Awali Estate, comprising of 3 bedrooms plus DSQ bungalows and maisonettes, are also ready and available for rent from 100,000 Kenya shillings. Our estates offer a unique, secure environment and a high quality of life to residents, beautifully landscaped outdoor spaces, and a wide range of outdoor facilities.
Oskia International College Kenya, based at Epic Center in Nyali, Mombasa, is your leading training college for certification and diploma in healthcare and community services.
This college is TVETA registered, recognized not only in Australia but also in Kenya.
The students will be looking after the elderly, the disability and community, and the Diploma of Community Service is all about case management.
Enrollment is continuous. Visit our website or call 0703 686 922 for details.
Secure your future plus the future of your loved ones by buying a property at the Great Oasis Gardens in Nanyuki or any other Optivens value-added properties today. Pata ploti chap chap na Optiven and enjoy a peace of mind, classy living and lots of happiness. Start the journey now with as low as 149,000 Kenya shillings and get 3,000 shillings cash back. Call us today on 0790 300 300. So what are you waiting for? Pata ploti chap chap na Optiven.
Are you an individual or business person dealing or trading using Forex? Sometimes there's no time to visit a branch or make a call to negotiate Forex rates. Get EasyFX today, a secure and convenient platform that allows you to do your Forex requirements in real time. You enjoy access to competitive Forex rates, full transaction history, and real-time streaming of various currency pairs. Buy and sell Forex at the touch of a button. Sign up for EasyFX today on equitygroup.holdings.com/KE/EasyFX or call 0763 000 000 and make Forex easy.
This